to CIO News. I am Afreen Khan, your host for the broadcast and head of operations at CIO News. This is our exclusive fireside chat powered by GoTo, specifically for IndiaMART InterMESH. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. Very excited to invite my guest for today, Mr. Vivek Agrawal, who is the CIO at IndiaMART InterMESH Limited. Mr. Vivek Agrawal is a mentor, coach, leader. He's an online business enthusiast with core expertise in business strategy, planning, and execution. Product development, product management, people management, CRM development, business analytics, and business technology are also a few more feathers to his hat. Welcome, Mr. Agrawal.
Thank you.
I also have along with me Ms. Natasha, who is a remote support group lead for APAC at GoTo. Natasha incorporates her 14 plus years of IT sales, customer service, and technical experience to bridge the gap between a customer problem and a product offering. As the product specialist for the remote support group suite, she plays the voice of the customer internally at GoTo and the face of remote support products for their customers. Her unique insight into IT consumer trends, knowledge of the APAC geography, and passion for technology guarantees an interesting conversation. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much, Afreen. Really happy to be here. It's a pleasure to speak to Vivek today.
All right, so let's just dive in, Mr. Agrawal, and just to begin with, we know for in the last couple of years, the way IT industry has seen a boom in adoption of technology, because of course, in the post-COVID era, remote working, etc. So, what are your IT priorities in 2023?
So see, IndiaMART is a tech-first company, and we have our internal home-built ERP, which has been built over last 20 plus years. And when softwares and ERPs get built over long years, a lot of features get into it, and it requires a lot of simplification. So if you ask me about IT priorities of this year, I think topmost priority is to how to simplify our ERP systems, ERP screens used by our executives to talk to customers and service them. That will be number one. Number two, I would say, will be providing intelligence to our executives to be able to make their meetings or calls more effective. Right? We have a lot of data. We capture a lot of data. We capture a lot of engagement data from customers and the employees. So we want to make the systems more intelligent to enable our executives to be more effective in their meetings. A third one would be a lot of automation of a lot of processes. There are multiple manual processes running, and we have identified the ways how we can automate and remove the manual efforts. These are three, and the fourth one definitely cybersecurity, without which no institution, no organization can sustain, especially in this new era of working in the remote environment. We need to ensure that our systems are highly secure and data is secure. And these are the top priorities which we have.
Yes, and when you talk about simplification or when you talk about cybersecurity, I'm sure you would have to have multiple service providers, multiple vendors. So, are you looking to consolidate your IT vendors in this year? That's in 2023.
So as I mentioned, the ERP is a home-built one. So we have our internal team who is working on those solutions, on those simplifications. We do have vendors with whom we work. For example, we would on cloud front we have AWS and GCP, which we are working with. Right, we have certain people, certain partners helping us in speech transcription, analytics on that front. We have vendors providing us the number masking solutions. So yes, vendor consolidation is always on the CIO charts. We also look forward to it, but since we have most of the tech in-house, we'll see if what kind of consolidation we are able to do.
Okay, and it sounds like your entire IT plan for this year is very well charted. So, are you currently or on track to meet your IT resolution targets?
Oh yes, I must say. So whatever the item which I mentioned about the top priorities at IndiaMART, we are already into. We already launched the simple screen for our executives and all-in-one screen kind of system which we have launched. We are already simplifying our mobile ERP interfaces on more footing. As far as cybersecurity goes, we have already taken a lot of ISO certifications. For example, we have worked on the 27001. Which is about information security management systems. We have 22,301 for business continuity management. We have taken 27,701 again for PII controllers and processes. And we have also taken 31,000 for risk management and principles. And working on further more ISO certification, which will ensure that all our systems have been audited well, and we also certify on the cybersecurity front for our systems. So yes, I feel that we are on track on most of the IT priorities which we have this year.
On that note, when we talk about cybersecurity, particularly, we know that yes, you spoke about it like it is a priority for you, just like most of the leading organizations, and particularly in the current scenario with the new work environment, we know that it has extended beyond the perimeter of the office. So, how do you think organizations should strengthen their cybersecurity posture to safeguard their businesses while ensuring the smooth running of their operations? And like you did mention a couple of certifications that you all have adopted, but are you still worried about security breaches?
Okay, so I'll talk about in the context of IndiaMART. So IndiaMART we have our ERP which we use is cloud based. The employees access it through browsers. So I feel the first level of security, very basic security, which any cloud based or browser based application should implement is HTTPS. So we are completely on HTTPS, number one, I would say. And the backends, all the backend servers, all the backend requests go through firewalls and API gateways. We have implemented this firewalls, the web application firewalls, the hardware firewalls across all these servers. We log all the user activities. So if there are 5,000 people working, if there are 10,000 people accessing our ERP systems across all the functions departments, we have the log of each activity done by every person. So when you start logging, you start to monitor them. I think this is important step in ensuring that the right requests are being made by people through our CRMs. We have also ensured multi-factor authentication for any system access, be it a web application or be it a server access, right? We have 100% backup of our data. So I think these are all steps which an organization should take, and we have also taken here in India, at IndiaMART, to ensure our systems are secure. And yes, if like any other organization, we also remain worried about security breaches. But these ISO certifications and the process audits help us to be confident that we have set up right processes and right monitoring systems, which help us ensure that yes, things are under control. That's how we do at IndiaMart.
That really sounds great because I think you've thought it through very very well. And but then I have a follow up question on that. We know for a fact that uh, the more number of systems, the more number of processes. We know that's the increased adoption of all of these processes actually leads to a lot of queries. And most of the time, what happens is an organization's productivity it actually suffers because of the lack of technical assistance because we know that the people who are using may or may not be tech savvy. So how have you been managing this, and how has technology been a helping hand in managing such remote work scenarios?
Okay. Before answering, let me talk about the environment and the kind of applications or softwares which our people use to work for IndiaMart. So what we have tried to keep things very simple. We have no installed software. The only requirement of an employee, of an executive to work for IndiaMart is to have a browser and an internet. So our ERP applications, our CRM applications are accessed through browsers, which essentially means that all the security guidelines or the security rules which browser applies to its users, they automatically get applied to our all the accesses. I think this helps us ensure that there is no technical problem with respect to a computer or a setting within a computer or an installed software which is not functioning somehow. The software is not able to access the internet. I think those problems go off because all of us use internet and browser for all our daily activities, right? Uh, Number one. So when things become simple, now the only issue which an employee would face, I believe, is either the internet is not working for them. That's number one, which he or she has to solve because he or she uses that computer or a mobile device for himself or herself, right? Or the ERP is functioning slow, for example. Then a user may need to talk to Intel, tell IndiaMART that my ERP is functioning slow. Now, since it's a web-based or cloud-based, it will not work slow for a employee. It will work slow from server side, or work slow for most of the employees or all of the employees. So for such situations, we have two kind of systems platform which we have created for our employees to connect to IndiaMART immediately for any technical assistance. One is the robust employee ticketing system, which goes through our ERP, right? So this employee ticketing system is very simple. User can raise a ticket with maybe 2-3 clicks and a single line or two line of problem description of the problem which they face, and we ensure a very tight tat for all the employee tickets we receive. Any ticket not getting resolved within a day or two gets escalated immediately to up the ladder, right? This is the first kind of platform which we have given to all the employees. There's a second platform which we have created, like we have WhatsApp groups, we have Google chat spaces. Or most of us must have used Google chat spaces. So we have mid to senior people across organizations on those chat space, which is a kind of a high alert group. So any issue faced by any person across the organization gets, which is a severe problem. Say, for example, people suddenly start to face problem in connecting with the suppliers through call. So this may be a grave problem which is faced by all of us, or most of them. Then they escalate on the highlight group because they cannot wait for somebody to respond an employee ticket maybe after 15 minutes. They require response in the next 1 minute, next 30 seconds. So we have created chat spaces for our highlight requirements, which all the technical people are already mapped to, and we try to provide assistance to our employees. I think these are the ways by which we try to support the employees in the problems which they face. I think the biggest advantage which I mentioned in the start of this answer, like since it is mostly web-based and application web-based or cloud-based, so most of the problems get resolved just by having a right internet connection and a proper desktop computer or a working mobile phone.
Brilliant, brilliant. And when you speak about having those groups, when you particularly use technologies, also a bit in a conventional way, of course. And you put it in the same workspace. You just put a message immediately rather than waiting for a response from the ticket. It's a combination of the
Yeah.
conventional and the unconventional modes. So yes, and that actually makes me ask you that we know that, of course, after the adoption of a remote support solution, and also before that, what do you think are the biggest challenges, and how do you suggest overcoming those challenges? You've answered it partially already, but if you could throw some more light on it.
I think if you ask me about the challenges faced by mainly people working on remote, I think onboarding of new employees continues to remain a challenge, because we all know how effective are these online onboarding processes, right? A new person joining the organization needs to understand the organization, needs to understand the processes, needs to understand the organization DNA, right? Then these all can happen on the last, specifically the DNA and the processes can be understood better only if they join the organization face to face. So I think new employee onboarding is definitely a challenge for all most of the organizations. I'm sure all the organizations when they onboard remote people. This is number one. Number two, learning as you go. So cross learning is missing largely in the remote environment. See, when we are in office, I remember very distinctly, people reach out to us. They just knock and ask a question, right? If you are in the virtual environment, they have to add a calendar. They have to first check your calendar where I can block a meeting schedule. The calendar is, even if the employee has to ask a simple question of 2 minutes, maybe he needs to have a calendar for it. So I think that makes brings a lot of problems for the cross learning. Engineers sitting in office, they learn 50% of it only by seeing how other engineers are working. What kind of code he or she is writing, what kind of application he or she is using, how he or she is troubleshooting. How do we expect them to do at home by giving them training for all those things? So I think these are the two big challenges I feel when it goes to remote work. Cybersecurity definitely continues to be there as a challenge for all the organizations every time. However, ISO certifications and the processor robustness they have brought in their systems. I think these are the third one I would say, since remote functioning is not about work from home only now. It's like work from anywhere, right? When people try to work from anywhere, they need to have easy accesses to your processes, your systems, right? And then mobile devices come very handy. You don't have laptop anywhere, but you have mobile devices to what all places you can think of, right? So how can we enable our users to access the ERPs or the systems through that mobile easily? I think that's a very important. That's why this is an important charter and IT priority for IndiaMART this year as well, to make our mobile ERPs very simple. If, for example, earlier when an employee used to go to meet a customer before COVID, while mobile devices were there, laptops, they also used to carry laptops, right? But now there are so many customers, they talk on the call. They don't give, if they don't give physical meetings, or if they, even if they give physical meetings, the how handy is the mobile device for them, how easily they can access information with a single click, is definitely very important. I think these are something which are the challenges and which we are trying to solve for our people at IndiaMART. Yeah.
Yes, and you, as you rightly mentioned, remote working is no more just about working from home. It is actually about working from anywhere other than the office as well. So when you talk about a remote support software, and also you mentioned that IT security is also one of the priorities for you, just like a lot of other leading organizations. So if how confident are you with your current remote support software? Like, when it comes to maintaining the data security, how confident are you there, sir?
So for this, I can mention, I think, two, 3 points which is worth mentioning here. So number one, when it comes to data security, first it is important that you have to ensure your ERP is being accessed by the right person. So authenticating the users who is accessing your ERP is very important. And that's where we have implemented multi-factor authentication here. Just to ensure that if Vivek Agrawal claims to be the user using the ERP, he or she, he is Vivek Agrawal only, right? This is the first step. The second would be to remote the role-based access systems. You need to define what kind of modules Vivek Agarwal should be able to access. So the right authorization for each module, each application which Vivek Agarwal is accessing, right? And number third, I would say whatever data Vivek Agarwal is able to download, limit the content of that Excel or CSV which is getting downloaded. So for all the data downloads which happen, we try to ensure limited number of fields. No sensitive fields should go in the data which is getting downloaded. So I think these are 2 or 3 items which we try to ensure. And definitely for every activity which the employee does, which Vivek Agarwal does, IndiaMART has a log of it. And Vivek Agarwal knows that all the activities are being logged and being monitored as well. So they also help in keeping the employees very beware that okay, we need to ensure they also need to be very aware that okay, what are the do's and don'ts for me. I think this gives us a lot of confidence, and we continue to improve our systems at the back end, be it a technology system coming to firewalls or gateways, right, or monitoring processes. We have regular daily and weekly reports of all these monitoring systems to ensure that they are functioning as per required and as per process. So I think this gives a lot of confidence.
Great. And on that note, Natasha, I would, considering when we talk about remote support solutions, you're an expert in that area. So we know for a fact that IT security is a top priority for most of the companies in 2023. I mean, all of the companies in 2023. So, what are your thoughts? And when you talk about the confidence in the remote support software, and how does it actually help in maintaining data security?
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think it's been a very interesting discussion, and I'm very happy to have got so many insights from Vivek so far. But from speaking from our perspective as a company that's been supporting remote work for the last 20 years, just a little bit of history to go to. We were erstwhile called Log Me In. We started 20 years ago as a remote support company. This is for pretty much being able to remotely monitor and manage your endpoints, that is your devices. You have thousands of devices in your company, within your environment. How do you manage them? How do you support them when there is a downtime, when there's an issue, when there is an app that needs to be installed, or maybe even a browser that needs troubleshooting? right? How do you get that support to the employee or the endpoint when it's needed, right? And so our very first tool that we founded 20 years ago was for that. Obviously, the use cases have become different now with remote working becoming all the more present. The use of mobile phones, like Vivek rightly said, has increased a lot. Everybody's adopting BYOD. Everybody's working in a hybrid setup. So the use cases and the need for even remote support has grown even more so, right? Which we did not expect to ever for it to boom this much in when we started the company 20 years ago. So, in terms of the trends that our customers come to us with, right? Why do they seek for remote support tools, remote support technology that will bridge the gap between an IT guy who is sitting in his home or in his office uh, to an end user who could be sitting, hundreds of kilometers away? How do you bridge that connection, right? The first thing is that employees, they need faster support than ever before, right? For example, if like Vivek mentioned, the ERP tool is running slow, or there is a bug that needs fixing, or maybe forget about on an application level, on a system level, right? If your Mac is hanging, there is an issue with your system, or there is some malware that has in suddenly, there's been an unsecure link that was clicked, your system has started to freeze, you're seeing all sorts of misbehavior on your system. How do you get access to support instantly to get that issue rectified, to get that out of your system, right? And so trying to get that support as quick as possible has been a key priority for a lot of companies, and a lot of the world's largest companies, from the top GSIs to the top OEMs to the top banks in the world, to the top retail companies in the world, they use our remote support technology called Rescue. It might be familiar with a lot of people listening today. Log Me in Rescue. It's something that has helped service desks reach the employee or the customer faster, right? And get them that support faster, right? Secondly, legacy systems are holding teams back, right? I think, like Vivek mentioned as well, everything needs to be cloud based today, right? And everybody today are already on the cloud or on the way, on the journey to cloud, right? If they are using all old on-prem or old clunky systems, that's definitely a priority for them for 2023 to move to cloud-based technology, right? Because downtime in anything that requires on-premise would require heavy maintenance. And when there is, downtime or there is issues, what happens is you need physical presence. You need somebody to be physically located for that, system to be back up and running, which is today it's become very fluid, right? You cannot predict when or what's going to happen and who's going to be available to maintain that device. So uptime is extremely important, and you can guarantee uptime only with something that is cloud based, right? Because you have access to it from anywhere in the world by anybody in the world within the company, right? So with our remote support technology, we've seen a lot of customers who have prioritized it because of its uptime being 99.99%. And then I think talking a little bit about the BYOD, right? Employees today, customers today, the way that we work is so dynamic, it's so fluid that I could be using a Mac today, and then when I get off this meeting, I'd probably take a break. I'd be using my phone, but I'll be still logged into work, right? I'd be still responding to my chats. I'd be still checking my emails. I'd be still, maybe somebody asks me for a document, I can share that from my phone, right? So my work continues with me, although my device may not, right? I don't take my device everywhere I go, my laptops everywhere I go, but I still take my work everywhere I go. And that's because of the mobility of work. And so when employees' work is mobile, they need mobile support as well, in terms of they expect to receive support on any device, right? I could be, if I'm switching from a Mac to an iPhone, and if I face an issue on an iPhone tomorrow, I need to be able to reach out to my support team to get that support. And it's not on application level only, but on a device level, right? Especially with companies that are highly regulated when it comes to data sensitivity. They use MDM, which is mobile device managers, to control what the employee does on the mobile phone, what they have access to. And even if it's an employee brought device, a self or BYOD, it is still something that a company would like to have some access to regulate the data being shared externally, establish some security protocols on that device using an MDM. So they can set up two different profiles, one for the employee and one for their personal profile as well as their work profile. And they make sure that these two are two separate profiles where one does not interfere with the other, right? So all of that has become a priority for IT leaders. A lot of the CIOs, a lot of the CTOs that we've been working, and I think a lot of the points that Vivek mentioned also resonates with that. As well as finally, I'll just end with this note, which is the better the employee experience, the better the customer experience, right? Because happy employees mean happy customers. The faster the employees are supported, the faster they can support customers, right? And so a positive customer experience is something that should be an end goal for any company. And that all starts and ends with how you're treating your employees, not just in terms of their satisfaction within your work culture, but also how you're supporting them in terms of their systems and their tools that you give them at their disposal, right? So are they getting the support that they need on any device, wherever they are? Whether if they are in a low bandwidth area, they should still have support accessible. Whether they're using Windows or Mac or iOS or Android, they should still be able to be supported, because ultimately the faster you support them, the faster they can service your customers, and your customer is king, like they say. And I think every industry attests to that philosophy.
Very, very rightly said, Natasha, that yes, happy employees lead to happy customers, of course. Because yes, if your employees are happy enough, they keep your customers happy. Very rightly said. So on that note, Mr. Agrawal, I wanted to ask you, when we talk about your agents, because we have to keep the security in mind, and you spoke about multi-factor authentication as well. So, while they are being checked, or probably the security is maintained to ensure that the right people are accessing information, but are you also restricting access, that, the agents only to have access for what they need for their job, and no sensitive employee or customer data? How are you making sure that this is happening?
Yes, this is very important, as I mentioned. So, to ensure security, to ensure security of data and the systems, when the employees are working remotely, two things are very important. Number one, while we have authenticated them, we have to ensure right authorization mechanism. So we have a very robust system which defines very clearly which employee has access to which modules, which screens, which options on the screen. We have gone to that level where we are able to define which add or view or edit or download a data or particular options in the entire screen are available to which employees. So we have individual role-based accesses defined here. So whenever an employee accesses the ERP on a desktop or a mobile device, since we know which user is accessing it, we also know which modules we have to allow him or her to access. So this kind of systems we have already in place, and also, as I mentioned, since we are logging all the activities, we also monitor at the back end what all systems were, what all the modules were accessed by an employee, and we are able to cross check, we are able to cross validate with the accesses and authorizations which he has. So that's how we maintain it at IndiaMART.
Great, great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Agrawal. And with that, we come towards to the end of the session. So, any best practices, or any suggestions from your end for our viewers?
So for remote working, I think I will suggest to have simple systems so that our employees, our users are able to access it through their desktop, through their mobile, through whatever device they are using. Keep it simple. Make the authentication very simple. If I say, I can very proudly say that the login with Google is the simplest authentication which anybody can implement, which is easy and yet powerful. I think these two are very important. And number three, when I say simple access based systems, simple screens are highly important. When your employees use, you need to make your executives life easier, not their managers first. So because if you have 10,000 employees working for your organization, 8,000 of them are the last level executives who are actually servicing your customers, their life have to be very easy. Whatever system, whatever applications they use, it should be simple, easy click, lesser clicks, access to information, easy to service their customers. I think these two or three are very important when I talk about the customer servicing and the remote working, right? And these become more important when people are working from home because their internet speed may not be very high. They may not have very powerful desktop or laptops, so your system should be able to provide them better experience on that low speed internet and a less powerful browser as well. So how do you design your systems accordingly? Data security and cyber security continues to remain very highly important for all the organizations. And I think while making systems easier makes our lives also easy from the management perspective. There have been right certifications laid out, which helps you to certify your processes and audit your processes regularly. This is what I would like to say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for those inputs, Mr. Agrawal. Natasha, any last, any inputs or any suggestions for our viewers from your end?
No, I think I completely agree with Vivek. I think as work gets more complicated, I think the more we can simplify, the better. And that's why a lot of companies are looking to consolidate and unification and simplification, because the world around us is not easy. It's not simple, right? So the more simpler we make it for our employees, the more simpler we make it for our customers, the better experience that they're going to have, right? But having said that, simplification does not mean compromising on your in keeping with the technology. Obviously, you've got to be advancing at the pace of the market to stay abreast, to stay at that level, to stay competitive. A lot of companies are adopting a lot of different technology. We spoke about BYOD. They're integrating Gen AI. There's use of robotic process automation. There's consolidation. There's so much of market tech speak that's happening, and the use of that technology is slowly getting very integrated into systems and tools for different companies. And so while you are keeping abreast with technology, always keep your checklist, which is your priorities, your key priorities, which is making sure your systems are reliable. Whatever technology you adopt, making sure it's reliable, it's the uptime is guaranteed, it's easy to use for your internal staff, it's easy to use for your customers, it's secure, like Vivek said. And secure is beyond just relying on your external vendor security, right? Which is maybe your browser security or your application security. I think you need to have your own security systems in place, which is your foundation, and then build on top of that, right? With your application security and your different those security protocols that your vendors provide. Um, and I think also going beyond the traditional, right? Which is if you are able to do, you're meeting your employees where they are today, think on how you can make that faster. Think about how you can make that better, right? If you are supporting software today, think about how you can support hardware, right? Because the use cases are getting a lot more complicated. So you've got to also think creatively a little out of the box, saying, what if it's a hardware issue, right? If it's a system issue, which is maybe a laptop issue with a keyboard or with the hard drive or with their charger, which is on a laptop level, right? But if you think about large scale machinery, you think about your broadband routers, you think about your printers, uh, those are not tools that can be remotely supported through software, right? So how would you remotely support those devices, which are still virtual, but you still need to provide that support? So think about like we provide a live lens capability, which is a camera visual engagement tool that allows for troubleshooting hardware, right? So think out of the box, but also keep it aligned with your company's goals and priorities, making sure that your basic checklist is guaranteed, in terms of not sullying your employee experience or sullying your customer experience, but also making sure that you're staying abreast with the market.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Natasha. I think very interesting inputs there that it's not just about supporting the software, but also the hardware, because ultimately, yes, it's an IT infrastructure is a combination of both. So yes, very rightly said. Thank you so much for that. And with that, we come towards the end of the session. Thank you so much, Mr. Agrawal, and thank you, Natasha. It was a really, really great conversation.